Hello friends, hope you are well. Techman Pat here. Today we're reviewing the Realme 7 5G mobile phone, and big thanks to Realme for sending this device for review. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm excited to talk about. It has some features that are absolutely mind-blowing, and for the price of 499 Australian dollars, it's something you just cannot go past. Let's roll the intro and get into it. Let's start with the biggest features of this phone. Of course, it is 5G, and in Australia, 5G is certainly really close around the corner to be completely ubiquitous across the country. It has what I think is 10 times better than every single other phone that doesn't have this, obviously. It's 120 Hz ultra smooth display, fast refresh rate. It's fantastic on a gaming monitor. It's even better on a mobile device that you use quite a lot. It has a 5,000 milliamp battery. That's massive. It lasts almost 20 days, actually more than 20 days in standby mode. When's the last time you had that? The Nokia 6600 whatever? That's amazing. And it has a 30-watt dart charger, which I believe it takes about an hour and a bit to actually charge from 0 to full. I'm so impressed. Can't believe it, because hey, I only needed to charge it every 2 days. And after all, this was so quick. I just plugged it in at some point in time and then walked away. This is one of those devices that you're just shocked and surprised because of the price. It uses an Dimensity 800U chip for its 5G, and of course it has dual SIM, which is always important in an Android phone. It's probably the only devices that actually get dual SIM. It has a 48 megapixel quad camera, and we'll show you some beautiful photos that you can take with it. It also has amazing audio. This is one of those devices that I just couldn't believe that had beautiful audio. Great sounding. You could in fact put it on the table, play some music, and it'll sound like a small Google Home speaker. Now back to the Dimensity 800U, it is got an Antutu score of around 330 when I tested, and then if I cooled it a little bit or waited a bit longer, it hit 340K. It can also do dual acceleration for internet. If you're connected to Wi-Fi and there is 5G around and you're downloading a big file, it can use both the Wi-Fi and your 5G to download it quicker. And that to me makes a lot of sense, especially if you want to get things done a little bit quicker. Let's say you're downloading a big video file for a presentation, you've got your phone, maybe it's just on the phone, you can present it through the actual device here, USB-C, because hey, you can share it to a screen or even just share it to a Google Home device. So on call, it's about 30 hours on that 5,000 milliamp battery. If you're watching YouTube, for example, or any other videos, it's about 15 to 17 hours. And if you're playing games, it's about 9 hours. Now, when's the last time you played games for 9 hours? Maybe an hour here or so. That is absolutely fine. Overall, I think the biggest highlight of this is that beautiful screen. It has a 90.5% screen to body ratio. It has a 120 Hz refresh rate, but it does sample your finger touches at 180 Hz, which means that this 6.5-inch screen is extremely responsive. The colors are brilliant and actually really vivid. It has a great refresh rate, which means all the movements are really smooth and your finger touch matches with everything that's happening on the screen. Now let's talk about the camera. This is a really interesting setup. It has a 2 megapixel black and white lens, yes, black and white, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, a 48 megapixel ultra high resolution lens, and a macro lens with a 4 centimeter focus distance, with obviously a flash. The photos come out absolutely brilliant, but it also has something that I have seen in many phones, but only have seen it work really well in a GoPro. It has ultra image stabilization, which basically means you could run around with this device, record something, and the built-in AI stabilization really helps. The algorithms basically remove a little bit of the outside of the image, zoom it in a little bit, and you can't really see the difference unless you compare side by side, but it completely stabilizes the image to a point where you don't really need an actual GoPro. Now, in regards to night photos, this is something that I always want to check with a camera. They come out really nice. However, you sometimes need to use a tripod if you want to capture a lot more light. Obviously, that's actually pretty much the same with a lot of phones, but I would like to add that with this one, it is particularly required if you really want to get those night shots to be really vivid. If you're just using it in normal mode and sort of hand mode, then the colors are still great, and I would still highly suggest it for night photo shooting. There's no reason why. The 48 megapixels of data that it captures via the camera makes for shots that can be zoomed in really deep with beautiful colors and contrasts, and even light and dark spots look really, really good. I'm just impressed. It's just one of those situations where you go, Android devices have better cameras than thousands and thousands of dollars worth of iPhone phones. Like, hands down, Android devices now have the best cameras. The ultra wide angle lens gives about 119, 120 degrees of wideness, but it looks really good. It looks great for panoramic shots if you want to capture a big area, and I would say that it's a little bit ridiculous if a device doesn't have an ultra wide lens. At this point in time, it should be a standard feature. Macro, ultra wide, and standard, and this phone has that plus more. Let's talk about the front camera. It's got 16 megapixels, it's a hole punch, and to be honest, it's so small you don't notice it. I do hate the iPhone's chin bar at the top. It takes away from their beautiful screens, and this screen in fact is so large with that little cutout, it makes no difference to me if it's there. If it's not there, I can't really see it. I think of it as a little clock sometimes, but to me, a punch hole is perfect for now until they do some under-display technology, and yet it's not really ready, that technology. I've seen some examples, not quite ready for prime time, so a punch hole to me is probably the best case scenario. And it also has beauty effects, of course. What is a phone without some beauty effects? I personally am already beautiful, don't need it, don't really like it. It makes me look like a bit of a doll. Nonetheless, it's there and it works really well. You can tone it down, and of course you can turn it off. Now I want to talk a little bit about the sound before I get to the actual full experience. It has Dolby Atmos and high-res audio, which basically means you can play music from it and it sounds like a small Google Home speaker. It's not going to beat the big one that's back here, but I put this down, played some music and walked around the house. I could not only still hear it, but it was clear and it was great. The only problem I find with that, it is only bottom firing, which means that if you're watching a movie and you're holding a phone like this or like that, yeah, it's gonna sound a little bit muted. You can cup your hand at the bottom like so to bring it more, but I'm surprised they didn't include this as a stereo-like speaker like other devices have in the past. That is the one thing I think it's lacking, but then again, at 499 Australian dollars, I can't fault this phone. It's a brilliant phone and it's 5G. Why would you spend $1,000 for a Samsung or $2,000 for an iPhone when this phone has a better camera, a larger screen, is priced 1/3 to 1/4 of the price, and of course it's Android and the Android experience is fantastic. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but why would you spend more when it can do everything and do it really, really well? OnePlus is no longer the best option for a budget Android device that is high-end. Realme is actually taking its place, in my opinion. So far, from all the phones I've checked out, they have really done it. So let's talk about the Android experience, because every time I review a phone, it's always different, things are in a different place, and I find that a little bit annoying. But everything is now gesture-based, happy days. The actual skin that's on here is very, very Google. It's very low level. There's not much modifications to it. Obviously, Realme has their own login, so you can save your settings and things like that. It did come with a few apps that I would say are not needed and probably just adware, and I guess I wouldn't use it, especially if you're already in the Google ecosystem. There are better apps out there. But once you remove them, it's fine. It feels really clean. Realme hasn't added anything particularly obtrusive onto this actual skin, and I think because of that, it makes it run really, really smoothly. What about security? Because so far we haven't talked about it. There's no inbuilt fingerprint scanner. You can use Face ID, but I just don't recommend it because Apple's Face ID is actually really good and most of the Android versions are not. You remember Samsung tried an i1 iris scan. It was absolute trash. Nonetheless, it has an inbuilt fingerprint into the button on the side. And the button on the side is small enough for you to use as a thumb button, and it feels really good, and the fingerprint recognition is absolutely instant. It's capacitive, so you don't even have to press it, and it means it works really, really well. For those who really like fingerprint access, this is a phone for you because it's got it, it's not on the back in a weird spot, and it works really, really fast. I would say that it's very practical and the button feels really well. On the other side, we do have the up and down buttons. They feel like they've been moved lower than past Realme phones, but it does sometimes mean that when you hold it sideways, you can press the lock button. That is a little bit frustrating. And because it has a fingerprint reader, it also has NFC, and you can put all your cards onto it. Google Pay works really, really well. Hold it, tap it, off you go. I can't believe more phones don't have this. And in Australia, one of the biggest benefits we have is that these NFCs are accepted everywhere as opposed to America or any other country. It's actually really practical to have your actual cards to pay with on your device, because not only does it have a fingerprint reader to obviously lock it and protect your security, it actually works really, really fast, and it's easier than using your card from your wallet. The color, the build quality is absolutely fantastic. There is a little bit of a big chin at the bottom, but that can be completely forgiven when you're gonna swipe up anyway from the bottom, because I just don't like the buttons anymore. It gives you more real estate when you're not using the buttons anyway. So it is a budget phone that, to me, looks like it is completely high-end. 120 Hz refresh rate, big battery, great colors on the screen, fantastic camera, fingerprint, NFC. Just what is going on? Why is it so cheap? And that's what I'm gonna leave it with you today. Friends, highly recommend it. Thank you very much for Realme for sending this phone for review. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video if you did, and subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews like this and more tech and telco news from Australia. Thanks for watching. Catch you on another one. Bye!